Welcome everyone. So Cooking with Heart Foundational Class 2. So I am so excited today is a great topic. It's a topic that's often just skipped over, but it really makes it a lot easier to do the things that you're aiming to do by setting up the kitchen. So this is really a lot about how do we set up the kitchen so that we kind of fall into what we want to for eating. So I think it's one of the most powerful ones. So my hope is that you'll take away a lot here. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some good kitchen kind of skills. So next week we're going to go into transitioning to plant eating and kind of talk a little more in depth into the gifts for plants. Some things you may not have known, and talk a little bit about some of the plant proteins. I do want you to know that you don't have to rule out meat. So that is not the goal. The goal, though, is to get it more in balance. And for most of us, we're eating too much meat. So, and maybe not the best types. So any guidance I can give you there, I really want, several of you completed the assessments, and thank you for doing that for yourself. And I'm here to help. And so many of you are doing great things. And I want you to, this is not about, telling you that you have a lot to do. This is about saying, hey, I can take baby steps and make a big difference. So a lot of you have a lot of things that I want you to keep doing, and then just add a little bit to make a big difference. So hopefully you found some value out of that, and you can take that at the end and see kind of where things change up. Okay, recipes today. We're gonna do a quinoa berry salad with a sauce that is just a really simple, valuable sauce to do that a lot of chefs do. I have a lot of fun with it. We're gonna do zoodles. How many of you have done zoodles before? Anybody? Tammy's done zoodles. Okay, so we're gonna make a more kind of elegant dish versus some of the stronger, powerful dishes we did last week. Roasted broccoli, because roasting vegetables is a really key skill, and broccoli it's delicious when it's roasted. And nearly instant crunchy peanut bowl, which just takes like maybe 10 minutes to make at the most, not even that really. So now, what I want to take a moment to have you share your learnings from last week. So pull out your action steps. And for this next, think about what your intent was, what happened, if you had some barriers, challenges, or if you ended up doing something else, or if, what you found out. So, or anything else. It doesn't even have to be like specifically from this class, but some way you're taking a step in the direction you want to go. Yes, Joyce.
Stay away from ding dongs.
Stay away from ding dongs. You got to tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well, my husband takes all that stuff in his lunch to work, and I'm like, there. It's just hard. It's calling your name.
Okay, so keep it out of the house is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Yeah, I wish you would. In the basement.
There you go.
But then I go down the basement, do my rower, and there they are.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about
problem. That.
Yeah. Okay, so ding dongs are Joyce's weakness. So other learning.
I tried dish like without meat. I tried to get more mushrooms in there.
Oh, what'd you think?
It was pretty good.
Okay. Okay, so it was moving the right direction. What would you do differently? What would you do to make it even better?
Different veggies or just do something. That was just kind of experiment.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Keep at it. So you're going to find it. That's the right, scientist mindset.
So, yeah, I mushrooms twice a week.
Yeah. Just, once or twice a week will make a huge difference. So yes. Yes, Karen.
Use olive oil and not butter.
I saw that on many people's action step. So use olive oil instead of butter. Awesome. Wonderful. How was that?
You're frying,
Yes.
maybe a fish or,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, I don't use butter.
Awesome. Awesome.
Is it margarine worse than butter itself, or?
There's a lot of back and forth about that. I have butter in my house. I don't use it very often, but every once in a while it's like, okay, this really should be a little bit of butter.
Toast.
What?
If you're eating a piece of toast instead of butter, what would you use?
olive oil, avocado, things like that. So, peanut, and nut butter. So, yeah. So, peanut butter, almond butter, tahini. So those are things. I mean, they have their fats, but they're healthy fats. Our body is like, oh, this is cool. So, yeah. And they're gonna fill you up rather than just toast with jelly or something like that a little bit. So, anybody virtually want to share something there?
Hi there, this is Janice.
Yes.
I replaced my morning Coke with 2 glasses of water.
Ooh, okay. That's a big change. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I'm trying to get better sleep, so I'm trying not to rely on caffeine to wake me up.
Okay.
So we're giving it a go. We're giving it a go.
Oh, that's awesome. Giving it a go, pilot test, take observations. Yeah, you might have to tweak it, but awesome. Keep with it. Awesome. Keep us posted, Janice. That's great. Sleep is so important. Others. Okay. Awesome. Now, I want you to think about these learnings, and maybe there's some that you think of, but you want to write down, you maybe didn't share, but that's fine. I've tried to, in the next week, make a couple blanks for this week on the action step for you to fill out some of your learnings from the previous week. And the idea is I'm just trying to train you a little bit to think about the learnings, because we usually kind of focus on, oh, what didn't I do? What should I have done? And remember, I'm really trying to change your thinking to I choose to do this. This is a gift to do. So, and what you want to bring more of. So, yes, awesome. Okay. Okay. I want to dive into the topic for today. So how many of us don't know we need to eat more vegetables or drink more water? How many don't know? Okay, you got it. You laughed. You're like, what is she trying to say? For most, the problem isn't what. We know what we want to happen, but it's how to make it take place regularly and autopilot, make it stick in our lives. So there's a quote by BJ Fogg. He's a behavior change researcher from Stanford. And he says there is just one way to radically change your behavior, radically change your environment. That is the easiest way. So, and Joyce already shared some things that she observed. So we want to create an environment that favors us doing what we want to do, the habit we want to take place. And James Clear, I don't know if you've read about him, Atomic Habits, he has, but he calls this priming your environment. So making it easy. So let me give you an example that's not food that you'll probably think of lots of ideas. So if you want to encourage your child or grandchild to read, what do you do then? What sort of things do you do to make it easy for them to read? Have books available. Yeah.
I challenged my grandson to read 10 books a month, and then we'd get to go do something special. He's
There you go.
going to be
You
a
have
first
a
grader.
reward in there.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Some type of reward.
Yeah. So you take them to the library, Karen said. So what about making a little place in their room that's their reading little, area sort of thing. So there's all kinds of things that you do. So if you want to sleep better, what are some of the things that we are encouraged to do to set up the environment for sleeping better?
No TV in your room.
No TV in the room, no caffeine. Yes. Maybe charging your phone in another room. So turning the bright lights down. So, set a get ready for bed alarm. So you are, in a sense, organizing your environment so that it's easy to do the intended action. So at the same time, so we want to make it easy to do what we want. We want to make it hard to do what we want to kind of cut down on or do less often. So this is called increasing the friction or the amount of work that's required to do the habits we want to kind of cut down or disappear. So If we want to eat less, do we serve food on a bigger or smaller plate?
Smaller.
Smaller. When you go from 12 to 10 inch, you decrease your calories 22% on average. People do. No, you don't even need to tell them. They just do it. If you want to stay away from junk food in your house, tell me which answer, A, B, or C, you would do. You would put the junk food on the counter in plain view. You would put it out in the garage, or you'd put it in the storage room where you need a ladder to get to.
A ladder.
Yes. So you want to deter it. So make it difficult. So Joyce, she said hers was in the storage room, but she sees it when she works out. So we need to fix that. We need to put a curtain in front of it or something.
They're gonna need willpower.
No, we do not rely. I assume we all have low willpower. So that's the safest way. And willpower is never manageable. Nobody has figured it out. So it will go high and then it'll drop.
Yeah.
So if you want to avoid eating chocolates at work in a dish that's near you, which creates the most friction? Put them out of sight in a drawer, out of reach, put them more than 6 feet or further away, or just leave them
6 feet away.
out of sight.
Yeah. So-
Now we do find just at least getting it 6 feet away really cuts down too. So, because you have to get up and take a few steps. So sometimes we don't have can't just move them. They're part of the whole office area. But so, and actually Google, they have at some of their offices, they have little kitchenettes and they have refrigerators. They put on the counter fruit and they put away the snack bars. It's not that they don't have junky food, but they do potentially put it away. And they have a refrigerator that the top you can see through and the bottom has got a design you can't see through. And so the bottom is the fruit juices and the pops and the top is the water. And the people are these are engineers and stuff and computer people. And they're we're not stupid. We know there's pop in the refrigerator, but because we see the water and they've actually timed because they have coffee machines and they've timed how long it takes to take a latte. And so they figure out what they're going to have sitting around where based on that 20 seconds of time, because that's 20 seconds you're there that you could grab for something. And it's, again, they want to encourage, they're not trying to control people, but they're just trying to make it easier to make the choice that's going to help them be healthier. So, okay. So if you want to make meal prep easier, do you assume you'll get, when you get home, an hour before dinner that you're going to have lots of energy left and be motivated to make an entirely new meal? Or do you find when your mental energy is the highest for you, maybe after dinner is done and then you prep for the next day's dinner, or maybe first thing in the morning with your coffee, or maybe on the weekend, on Sunday afternoon? Do meal prep then. Which
Sunday
do you
afternoon.
think is gonna, what?
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon for Tammy. That works for me too. So, but find out when your energy is high, guys, mentally, because for a while, this stuff is not automatic habit and you're going to need to think and make decisions. So until it's automatic habit, you need to use it when your mental energy is high. Also, planning is your best way around going into our limbic brain. And we kind of have three brains that kind of work together-ish. Your older brain is your limbic versus your prefrontal. Your prefrontal is it's your adult in you, okay? And your child in you is the limbic. And the amphibian in you is the amphibian. That's the reptile. That's snake, just reactionary. So your emotional brain, limbic, will take over. It's quicker. And it will take over when you're low on energy. So later in the day, when you're spent, guess what? I've got a 19-year-old son that's let's just say he's a little challenged with doing some things he has on his list to do for the summer. So now, I could get on his hide. That works to some degree, but I'm really trying to teach him some adulting skills here. So we sat down and talked about the importance of planning, because he's waiting until he gets up and thinks just magically he's going to feel like doing these things that he's not crazy about doing. He's not. So, we're observing that, learning, same process we're doing here, but without food. But the point is that he is learning that planning uses your limbic brain, your prefrontal cortex. It doesn't bring in emotion, and that is your best defense. And you need to do it when you have the mental energy and clarity to get onto it. And when you get later in the day and when you get pulled away, that's your emotional limbic, and you're going to throw out any intentions at that point. So, okay. So let's hop over to my PowerPoint. Let me see. I see a chat here. I want to make sure I'm catching you guys. You got, oh, okay. I got your Tammy. You got that. So you guys are seeing me now. So let's share. I'm going to hop over to the PowerPoint and we're going to get some great ideas here. Well, that's not the PowerPoint. Over here. Okay. If you keep good food in your refrigerator, you'll eat good food. Now, I know that sounds so simple, but gosh, guys, if I went like up and down the streets here and peeked in the kitchens of people, what would I find? No, it's so logical why they're struggling with eating food that's delicious and healthy, because they don't have it in the household. So you got to have it in there if you're going to really start to turn to it. So, okay. How many food decisions do you think you make in a day on average? They actually did a study on this, how many food decisions you make in a day. So this is using your prefrontal cortex. You're draining it from doing all these decisions. How many are we doing a day on average?
3.
Okay, Karen says 3. A lot higher. So good guess, but a lot higher. Lot.
7 to 10.
What, go ahead, say it again.
7 to 10.
7 to 10. Okay, guys. 219. 219. Because we get up, we're like, okay, what time am I going to eat now? How hungry am I? What do I have? When do I need to be at the next thing? We're making all these decisions, and we're what to eat, how much to eat, more. Okay. Oh, that's tempting. Is that okay with what I've been eating, sort of thing? So 219. That's a lot. Now, the point is, I want to cut down on that, because that's taking a lot of your decision power. And I always say, you've got more important things. Yes, your health is important, but I don't even want to spend 219 decisions a day on food. Okay, I've got other stuff to do that's really up there important. So, just imagine if you had the things, the oatmeal, the fruit, the Ezekiel bread for toast, your nut butters for breakfast, for lunch, if we had frozen fish or leftovers or wraps, and roasted chicken, sliced hummus, for snacks, if we had hard-boiled eggs, nuts, trail mix, fruit, veggies with hummus, popcorn. If you had these things on hand, it would make it so much easier than to actually make the things that you want to. Having the things around is really important. It's not always even about the cost. That's important, guys, don't get me wrong. But when you have leftover of a can of beans, it's not going to hurt your budget if you toss it out. But if you keep it in a form that it'll keep for a month or two, then you've got it on hand so that you can make something and throw it, or increase the nutrition of something with even just a handful. So, okay. So I know, these are just some choices, but there's so many things that you can have on hand. In my refrigerator, I've got a Parmesan shaker, but it doesn't have Parmesan in it. I just use that for my go-to mix when I just need a topping on something. I'm like, ooh, I need a little zing to this. So it's crushed cashews, nutritional yeast, onion powder and garlic powder and a little bit of salt in there. So I just always shake that on there. So it's my go-to. So you figure out what that's one thing I have on hand. Then in the freezer, I have pesto in ice cube trays that I popped out and put in a baggie. So, ooh, that adds nice zing, a little bit of homemade pesto to something. I've got beans, I've got tomato paste in 1 tablespoon amounts frozen in the freezer. I've got berries, frozen berries. All these things make it easy to then throw together something on the fly. Oh, what do I have? Oh, I can make this or that. So, okay. So the number one strategy to ensure success is to have an environment that supports healthy habits, having that around you. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to break the kitchen into kitchen zones to make it kind of easier to kind of think of how you maybe want to go at each zone to make it easier to have healthy food on hand. And the top one is actually the refrigerator. So that's actually the most important. I don't know. Nobody has figured out why it is, but every country, every age, when they're bored and they want something to eat, what do? Go up in the refrigerator. I've seen my kids and just laugh. I'm like, he's got the refrigerator open and he's just looking. So yes, it's our go-to. So how your refrigerator is organized is really, really key. Now here I have it organized by food safety. This is taken from the 1950s. And basically that's how our refrigerators still are today. There's some improvements, but I'm going to just kind of push that off to the side. Food safety is really important, but we don't really need to organize it by this. Okay. Because in truth, our food should be gotten rid of by the time any of this really is important. Okay. Yes, it needs to be held at temperature, but the humidity and things like that, the only thing that you really need to pay attention to is raw meat should be somewhere where drippings aren't going to get into and have them well wrapped. That's the number one. Otherwise, you figure out your refrigerator. I know where the cold spots are, the warm spots near the front and the door, that's where, broccoli, we're going to find out, is a really harsh vegetable. It loves cold. Basil, do not put that back there, okay, where the cold parts are. So you learn a little bit about that. But then we want to go with where we're looking. The primo real estate in your refrigerator is where you open that and look first. So Jan and Tammy, you can, if you want to, just scurry off to your refrigerator, open it, and see where your eye goes. You can do that at home, but I want everybody here, when you get home, to just open it and see what shelf. For me, it's the second down right. It doesn't have to do with height, so it doesn't matter. It's usually anywhere from the middle on up, and depends upon if you have 2, doors or 1 kind of thing. But wherever that spot is, that kind of 6 inches by 6 inches, that is your most important real estate in your whole kitchen. That is going to encourage you or deter you. So you've got to figure out where that is. That is so key. So one study, they asked people just to take the fruits and vegetables out of the drawers in the bottom, which is where we're taught to put them. And I'm not saying that's bad, but nobody sees them down there. They all go bad. So you take them out and then you put them up at eye level, or they actually were just told to put them on the top shelf. And in 1 week's time, they ate 3 times more fruits and vegetables just by that switch alone. So, kind of think of that's like your Manhattan, New York apartment real estate in your kitchen. That's the $10 million, real estate in your kitchen. Truthfully, it's the most valuable real estate you have in your kitchen. So, okay, so this is my refrigerator a while back. It's when I had the adult kids, all of them at home. And when you're in a young adult in my house, you have to make at least 1 meal a week. And I found out if I was going to have them make salads, for the most part, it needs to be a bagged salad. I know it's so easy to just get the lettuce out or chop the romaine, but the easier it is, it's easier. So that's where you see the bagged. So I don't do those so much anymore since my adult kids have moved out, thanks to COVID going over. vegetables ready to go. You see them in baggies. I actually have disposable baggies now, but they're clear and I have little containers. But that's how I started out, was with baggies, having the fruits and or the vegetables ready to go there. It's the bottom in the drawers. You can still have fruits and vegetables, you'll see, but those are usually where I put the bulk. Where I know I have it on the menu, I'm going to use those. But if it's something that I want to encourage myself to be eating, I'm going to have it ready to go in that eye level area. So this is another time you can see the containers on the right. I don't have my bag with me, it's in my office, but I have like 3 containers, clear containers with the 3 different, I had roasted veggies with tofu, I had cauliflower salad with, it's similar to the kale salad, but it's cauliflower based with a little bit of a maple and balsamic vinegar dressing. And then I had some kale salad because I made that for my bulk this week. So I had all those 3 things for lunch. But little containers, I actually have probably 50 of those small little, now I know those containers are small. They are a little, I wish they were a little bigger, but they're cheap, they're small, and they end up in kids' rooms, you know, with paper clips in them or ponytails, I find them. But, you know, they're just clear is nice. Glass would be ideal. You know, those expensive baby food containers, those are ideal. So you want to put those on your Christmas list. I have a couple of them. You know, they don't even break when you drop them. So, but you can see on the bottom shelf, I've also got some clear containers there. On the top right, you see I've got some of those snacking peppers. So things are there. So they're right there staring at me. So I can think, oh, I've got the strawberries. You know, at times what I'll do when I'm making my coffee is I'll take the strawberries out and I'll just cut them and put them in a bowl out on the, you know, on the counter in a pretty bowl, and anybody can eat them. But you know, I'll be snacking on them then. When they're ready to go, you will just naturally start to snack on them. So, okay, some other kind of hacks here. On the left-hand side, I've got my oatmeal, and I know it sounds crazy, but you don't have to put your oatmeal in a container, but it's just one of those like things. I like it in my container, and I like the 1/2 cup measure there. Okay, it's there. So I don't have to reach for it. I don't have to guess. It's just there. I scoop it out, go. So all these little things, even though they're shaving off like 3 to 7 seconds, it's helpful. You don't have to think. These decisions you don't have to do. You just go in automatic habit and do it. The middle one there is my trail mix that I make. I don't eat it daily or anything, but trail mix doesn't hardly go bad. So I maybe have it once or twice a week, but I grab it, and it's actually usually I grab it because I don't know how the day is going to go. And I'm just like, I have this in case I'm getting hungry and I have to kind of eat something and I don't have time to go home and eat what I planned. So, but you can see there, I've got it ready to grab on the way out. If I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have that long meeting and I'm not gonna have time for lunch till like 3, then I'll grab 1 or 2 of these. Okay, so they're ready to go. Then on the right, that's in the wintertime, I have a hot cacao. It's like a cocoa recipe. And so any recipe that you're making over and over that you like, my goodness, just clip together, put the recipe there, put the measuring cups there. So you don't have to wash them. You just measure and then it's there. You don't have to think. So again, we organize to make it as easy as possible. If there's a recipe with seasonings that you like, when you're making it, make it triple time the seasoning and put a little container and label it. That way it's ready to go. You're like, oh, I'll use that this week kind of thing. You don't have to measure it. You don't have to dirty it. So just starting to think about how to make it so easy to make those recipes that you love. So there on the bottom right, one thing that drives me crazy is looking for the right measuring cup. Drives me batty. So I have a container with, 3 sets of them, so that I can just go in there and grab it. It's right there against the splash board. So I don't have to go digging for it. And then there along the wall, you can see, I highly recommend that you get some type of container to put those things that you're using daily or almost daily, because they need to be easy to get, not drawers. Okay, drawers aren't a cardinal sin, but the problem is drawers, they get shoved to the back, and then we get this like feeling that we have to like fill the drawer. No, when you fill it, then you have trouble finding what you're looking for. So you need to have things just really easy to grab. So here's some storage hacks. There in the top left, if you've ever done a co-op, you get these beautiful vegetables that you have no idea what their names are. They're lettuces, but seen them before. So you group them together. These are delicate. So we want to have, and you'll see like our spinach tonight, we want to have like a paper towel or some towel to absorb the moisture. If they're a delicate leaf, they're good. We need to keep the moisture wicked off of them. Now on the right, we've got more of a robust, like a romaine there. You can actually keep that stored longer by just rolling it in a towel, putting it in the refrigerator with a rubber band around it. And then each night take out what you're going to use for the next day. Put it at your eye level where you're going to use. These are just, you don't have to do these things, but they're things that work. The bottom left, the apples there. The reason why I have those there is because I want to show you that they're partitioned off. Apples are going to make your other fruits and vegetables go sooner because they're big ethylene gas offenders. It's not a bad thing. It's just a natural thing that all fruits and vegetables put off. But apples are really a big offender for it. So anything next to them is going to ripen pretty quick. So that's good for the drawer. Or my daughter is on this kick where she wants apples. So she wants them at her eye level. I've taught her. So I'm like, oh, okay. So we're going to put it in a container. I have a special like pull out container, just the size of the apples there. So they're not touching and not around the others. So what I typically do is have my apples, and I still do have more apples in the drawer, and then I'll put like the lemons and the limes there, but I put them in baggies, like freezer type baggies, because even the skin on the lemon and lime don't protect them fully from the gas of the apple. So, and then I'll just like, if I use all my lemons, I'll just leave that baggie in there because I know it's the lemon bag. There's no reason to like toss it out because I don't like tossing baggies. I don't like the environment, like going through all the baggies. So just think about that. So that's the refrigerator. The one thing I want you to take away today is really that primo real estate. Start playing around, pilot testing what should go there, what you encourage you to eat more of, and ready to go fashion. A carrot doesn't go there because a carrot is going to take a cutting board, a knife, and a peeler. That's at least 30 seconds. Okay, potato chips takes 10, 20 seconds maybe. You're going to go for the potato chips. Okay. If you're like, no, I'm not, I know I should do the carrot, but the carrot needs to be ready to go in sliced up matchstick. A lot of times I'll just on Sunday, just do several matchstick. Maybe I'll snack on them. Maybe I'll throw them into stir fry. Maybe I'll just add them to something, they're just there. And carrots last like forever, like almost as far as vegetables go. So freezer here, the tip here, and we'll do this throughout class several times where you can do a baking sheet. I actually like to do a cutting board because baking sheet's too big for my freezer. I cannot get it level in my freezer. So a cutting board is smaller and I can put parchment and then put berries I'm freezing or beans or whatever it is on there. So try and freeze things kind of flat because then you can stack them better that way. But you can do, berries freeze really well that you can throw into things. It does change the structure a little bit because that flash frozen does break down a little bit of the plant cell. So we can't use them quite like fresh, but they're really great in things, in a casserole, in a smoothie, in a wrap. Those sort of things. So they are hard to just do as its own. You're not going to take it from the freezer and do it that way, but soups are great too. Pantry, there's no, way that you're supposed to do your pantry except for think about how you organize in your mind. When you're thinking of cooking, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, oh, I need to grab for the Mexican kind of or Mediterranean olives. So you want to organize things by cuisine, or do you want to think by wet or flavor enhancers or spices or there's no right or wrong way. So just how do you think what's going to cut down a couple seconds on grabbing? Have those things in the front that you're using the most often, those things that a little less often, especially spices. I know mine's always overflowing, but I have actually a separate cupboard for like onion powder, garlic powder, mustard, those things that I'm using over and over. And then I have the spin the wheel for the other I have quite a few, but so think about how can I make it easy to so the things that I want to be using more often, I can get to easily. Okay, countertop. So this is actually wrong, this basket here. The problem with it is the bananas are in there and the apples. Because bananas and apples are the high ethylene offenders. So they are going to ripen everything in there really quickly. So you know how a lot of times you have those like tiered displays for the counter and they have a hook on the top for the bananas? That's not for looks. That's to get the bananas out from the bunch of other things so that you're not making them go turn ripe so soon. So, and some people say, well, that's why my tomatoes are going. Yes, if you got the bananas right next to them, but tomatoes are going to go really quick. And tomatoes, by the way, do not go in the refrigerator, guys. If you like bland, starchy tasting tomatoes, put them in the refrigerator because the sugar changes to starch when it's in the refrigerator. Don't talk to the produce managers. They're clueless about tomatoes. And also the grocery stores really don't care too much about the ins and outs. They're going to put it in the refrigerator truck. I've had very serious conversations with several produce managers and they don't care. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's like everything goes on the refrigeration truck. Ideally, the tomatoes should not, because you're turning them more starchy, less sweet when you do that. So finally, they've actually put a notice on the label. Mostly they say, do not put in the refrigerator, because I've had people come over to my house and put my tomatoes in the refrigerator. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. So I do spread mine out. I have it tiered and I have my onions and avocados and mangoes there. I have a bunch of kiwi in another place because those have to rotate. I have a bunch of kiwi, you know, they turn it ripe all different times. Kiwis drive me crazy. So avocados, I usually have a couple in the refrigerator to, you know, kind of wait on ripening because that will hold them ripening, and then some on the counter. The bananas are off by the backsplash and they're off. I mean, so, and then I have a son that only likes them if they're like underripe. So it drives me crazy, but I try and get them and I try and wrap them a little bit so that they don't go ripe, because if you wrap the stems a little bit, it cuts down on the ripening process a little bit. So counters really should be only fresh, whole fruit and vegetables. Everything else cleared off. You're allowed to have birthday cake one day on your counter. Then it's gone in the trash or given away. Okay, it does nobody any good to have 2, 3, 4 days of, you know, nibbling at birthday cake or a celebration, whatever. So enjoy it for a day, maybe have a second piece, then it's gone. So counters should be clear. And actually during COVID, it was, I won't say an issue, but okay, young adults, they really like to cook at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'll get up and I'm like, dishes and leftovers on the counter, brownies, things like that. Then I'll have a little chit chat saying, I'll text everybody, say who left that out, and then it'll be in the garbage or away. But I have a cupboard for them. They know where they can keep their stuff, and they have to keep it others, you know, hidden. So the counters should be clean, guys. They really should be. If you see it, we are visual creatures. You have to turn it down. Now, first thing in the morning, you'll probably be okay turning it down. But by mid-afternoon, 5 times later, they say it takes 5 times, then you give in. Okay, so I want to use my kind of turning down power for other things. Okay, tools. So tools in the kitchen, really thinking about what are you using frequently. So if you're using it daily or a couple times a week, that needs to go in containers. You can do beer mugs, you can make with your grandkids flower pots that you paint, that you can put, you know, utensils, tall utensils in. Fine, it's easy. And you can go to, you know, Amazon or I think Tuesdays is going out of business, but they used to have containers too that you can put things in. You know, you can find them all over, organization things, but you don't have to spend and splurge. I mean, practically the containers can, you know, you can just use for a little bit round containers to put them in. And you'll find things that you're like, oh, that'll be pretty. So I'll put that back there. But you need to make it so easy to grab your spatulas and your big spoons and your peeler and, you know, things like that. So so those need to be, you have a space that you're chopping your vegetables at. It's usually next to the kitchen, either the sink, left or right. And you want, wherever those useful tools are, those daily use tools, you want it to be, you don't have to step away. It needs to be right there. Now, 1 or 2 steps away can be useful. Okay. So those are things that you're using once a week, maybe twice, but kind of once a week. Those are things in a drawer that you have to walk, the other side of the kitchen. But those things should not be in that zone that you don't have to take a step where you're doing your actual prep, because they're slowing you down, guys. And it really is about speed and thinking. And when you have to, when you don't just open up the drawer and see it, then you're at a loss. You're using some decision-making energy. The unique things, those don't go in the kitchen, guys. Okay. Anything that you're using once a month or less. Okay. My mom, she moved into a new house in the last year. I helped her reorganize her kitchen. She had great grandma's stuff. I'm like, Mom, get this out of here. Okay, this is just diluting things, slowing you down. It was hard for her, I know, so I helped her do it. But anything, you just need to put it somewhere else. And some people need to have like an in-between location. It's like, I can't let this go. I know I'm not using it, but so you put it somewhere. But it's really slowing you down if it's in the kitchen where you're trying to actually, you're working against a clock and a decision, mental energy. So the other thing I want to mention, looking at your whole kitchens, one thing to think about, and I've had many participants do this, is where they take all their stuff out, pans, pots, pans, utensils, and they put it on the table, or they put a tablecloth on the floor and they put it on the floor there, and they go through it and they check for cracks, and they find that they have 3 peelers, one that doesn't even work anymore, so just going through, and then you'll be like, wow, I can actually find things now. So, just figure out what is going to work for you and what you need to have. Rearranging, if it's a pan that you're not using, it shouldn't be one that you keep having to lift out to get to the pan that you're using all the time. So there's a lot of creative solutions you can do. You can put hooks on the inside of doors. You can put magnetic strips on the inside of cupboards. If you have a small place, there's still a lot of cool things you can do. You can buy an island that's movable. You can buy flip out tables that you can do your prep work on. So I had to write a chapter for a culinary textbook for kitchens that were anywhere from model homes down to New York studios. So I had to think about what you need, what is necessary, and you can still have a great kitchen, even if it's on the small side. So it's about actually making things accessible. Okay, so I want to real quickly go over some really cool things about prep. So I'm going to get us, whoops, I don't think that worked actually. Let's see, stop sharing. There we go. So, and you're going to see me. So, okay, I'm going to actually change the camera to on the board there, because I think most you're going to see better on the board. Device settings, camera, we're going to go to room camera, and then, okay, so you should be seeing here, correct? Okay, awesome, because I've got some cool tools here. So I want to show you, this is a Sentuko. It's in the realm of a chef's knife, but it's a little smaller. It's a Japanese. It's called Senduko. I like it. I have a chef's knife at home, but I've really gone to just using this for the most part. It's just a little lighter, easier for my hands to handle. So it's still a really good. It's just a little shorter on the blade part, a little lighter. The blade is actually just a couple degrees thinner. It's nothing that you're going to really notice. But it works a lot like a chef's knife. So either of them are really good. But when we sharpen, what people misunderstand is this is technically, I don't call it a sharpener, okay? Now, you might call it a sharpener, and most people will. It's really called a honing rod. So, we have, this is mine from home. I like mine better. This one works just fine, but it just is small. So it's fine for here. But this is mine from home. They both work, and they have these small grooves. Actually, I can't feel it. My fingers actually, they're so small, my fingers can't feel it there. It actually looks a little rusty, but it's fine. So what this does is we think of this as a block of metal, but it's actually woven threads of metal. And if you think about it, when you're chopping, what's happening is you're doing this to the threads. Now, do you think that's getting sharper or duller? It's getting duller as it flattens out. Now, this is at a micro level of threads there. So what this does is it realigns. It takes it from here back to here. It doesn't shave off. It just puts them back realigned. So typically I'll put at home, especially when you're doing it the first couple times, put a dishcloth or something here so you don't flip out. So you just need about an 18 to 22 inch, 18 to 22 degree angle. Don't worry about remembering that. That's technically what you want the realm for a chef's or a Sentuko knife. All you need to do is think 90 degrees, 90 degree, half of that, and then half again. We're close enough, okay? The butt of the knife's there, and we just pull it and pull it. And you do this 6 to 8 times, and you're realigning it. Now, if it's the first time you've ever honed your knife, and you can hone paring knives, you can't hone a serrated knife. Those need to go to a professional if they're dull. But if it's been like never, then you want to probably hone it for 2 to 5 minutes. But first cut something because you need to see if this is making a difference. So just cut either a tomato or a carrot or something and just notice how easy it is or hard it is to cut. Then hone it and then see if it gets a little easier. If it doesn't, it's probably time to truly sharpen it, which is shave off a little bit. So, and these are 2 different ones. This is a Rollo. This is actually the one that's recommended for the Mac. This is the type of Sentuko. This is actually made in San Francisco or Sacramento. So this one, you go back and forth. Just even pressure like that. Now, if I had a chef's knife, I'm not going to use this because it's not a chef's knife because it's made for the angle. This is a little different angle than a chef's knife. Then you start with the coarse and you just pull towards you typically. This is a whoosh chef. So read the directions for your knife. Okay, and this isn't a super expensive. It's like probably 70 to 80 right now. It was 60 when I bought it. I know that is a lot of money, but it should last me for like 5 to 10 years at least, if not a lifetime. I mean, I chop a lot. So, and then fine, just do it like 3 times on the fine. Again, cut before and then cut after to see if it is. Because here's the thing, when you're cutting, you really should, when you cut, you should just break the surface of a tomato and then the weight of the knife should take it through. You should not have to press. You just guide it. So it's like butter once you break the seal on it. Okay. And those here, notice I have runaway balloons here. So the reason why is because I want you to understand what's happening to the plant. That when you're using a sharp knife like this, it's like taking a very sharp to the balloon and it's going to pop like that. Whereas if I have a dull knife, which most households do, let's see, where's my, oh shoot, somewhere here I have a knife, a real table knife. Oh, it's my real oh well, I lost. Oh, here it is. So it is like if you can think of taking a table knife to this balloon and popping it, it's going to press. There we go. It's going to shred it. And that's what you're doing with the plant. You are shredding. So that's why culinary people love sharp knives because it's a whole different cooking experience. It's faster, it's safer, but you aren't shredding, tearing the cells of the plant. And you are going to have a little bit of loss. When I see a cutting board that's got green pressed into it, it doesn't always mean, but sometimes it means somebody doesn't have a sharp knife because they've shredded the cells and the oil has been pressed against the cutting board. So then I know, especially if it doesn't come right off. If it comes right off, then it's just like it's water-based, so it's just a little dripping of the plant. But if it's really in there, it's probably some oil that got from the plant because they crushed the cells with a dull knife. So technically there is some loss then of the soluble vitamins. I don't think it's very much, but it's really just, think about you're just shredding the cell instead of cutting it nicely and quickly. So last thing, when we're doing whole foods, we are going to have a lot of stems and leaves and core and things like that. So you really want a discard bowl. It will come in so handy for you. Usually the upper left or the left side, so that you cut here and toss over here, and then the finished product is over there. If you're right-handed, that's the kind of easiest way of doing it. So, but just you know, then you can, once this is full, you can walk over to the wastebasket. But most of us have a kitchen where the wastebasket isn't right here. Okay. And honestly, even if I had a gourmet kitchen with it right here, I'd probably just still like just going right here real quick. If you're doing a lot of prep with like broccoli, it's really nice to have a dish rag so you can take your knife too and just wipe it off because, you know, it gets all the little pieces, and then you can chop next the carrots or whatever it is. So just having your area so you can go quickly and nicely. There's also mise en place is a culinary term that means everything has its place. And it basically means if you're a chef, you're going to get everything out ready. And it's not a bad practice. If you really want to go quick on something, I'm telling you, and your thinking brain is about gone, the best thing is look at the recipe, get all the ingredients out, put the measuring. I'll put like the teaspoon, and then I'll put all the ingredients that will be a teaspoon right behind it. So I know. So that, because you're tired, you're going to look like 30 times at the recipe going, how much is that? What is the next thing? So it just, you get everything out. And that way, you know, right away, oh, I forgot something. What am I going to substitute? Do I need to run to the store? So it's just, you know, try it out. Whenever I have to especially make like something that's double or triple, I do that. It's like I line them up, half cup here, everything that I need for half cup, I go through quickly. So it goes really quick. So just think about having places and making it easy to work in your area there. Okay, time to get started. So I want to get broccoli in because I want to taste that. I've got a bunch of roasted broccoli. So how many of you had roasted broccoli before? Oh, we got a few. Okay, you're in for a treat, those that haven't. Roasted broccoli is entirely different than broccoli. And I like broccoli, but I love roasted broccoli. So roasting vegetables changes things. You've got caramelization that starts at 330 degrees. But after that, a fruit or vegetable is going to go, you know, they'll turn the sugar into the starch into sugar and caramelize and things like that. But you know, broccoli really doesn't have a lot of starch or sugar, okay? So what's happening there is we call it aromatic compounds. There's hundreds of aromatic compounds, and those are going to taste more savory. Those are the dark burnt looking parts of broccoli, roasted broccoli. That's what we want. So I want you to know how to make those perfectly so that every one of them is blackened. So, okay, so here's our broccoli. So, you know, you chop it off. There's my discard. So usually when I'm roasting, I use a little more of the stem. You know, when you're making a salad, you trim it down, get the florets and stuff like that. But for roasting, we really don't care if we have a little more stem on it. So the most important thing when you're roasting and you want perfection is making sure the height is the same. So I usually just take a big bunch like this, and you're going to be like, really? And I think 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to go down, 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 down. Now it's not the prettiest on the planet, but I now have even. Now, if I want to take it down a little bit, I can, but these are perfect roasting pieces to me. So I will go through this one. I'll cut in half because it's too high. So, and these little pieces are useless when we're roasting because they're gonna burn like crisp and they're gonna use up space. So, so that's how I do the roasting. So I've got here some roasting. I've actually already gotten some ready. I want to show you. You can see here, I need my dishcloth to wipe this off. So the knife too, here, there we go. Okay, so I've got some here. And you can see I already put it out here. Now this is pretty perfection. You don't have to be this perfect. But my point is, I don't want you dumping a whole bunch of broccoli and just have this pile and put it in the oven. That's ridiculous. That's not roasting. Okay. First of all, I need at least around 1/2 inch between, because otherwise you're going to be steaming for a while before you get to the roasting. So you need to give the space so you can get the heat around it. We all have the same height. Notice it's pretty close enough. And we don't have any little pieces there. So I'm just going to throw a couple on here and show you real quick. And we're just going to set those down, kind of make sure they're the right heights. So, you know, approximately. Now on Pinterest, of course, you'll see people with these pans full of all different veggies to roast. That makes a great picture, but it really doesn't roast them nicely. So I'm just going to do a sprinkle of salt because It brings out the flavor and we, like a little sprinkle of salt. So I'm gonna put these in 20 minutes, top rack. There's no magic to top rack, but I just know that. That's my system. So maybe 20. 20 is a good place to start for most ovens. I do it at home and here, and I've done a lot of demos with the broccoli. Usually 20 minutes is pretty good. I did it on parchment. I don't usually use aluminum foil anymore. A lot of older recipes say aluminum foil. It's probably okay with the broccoli, but anything acid or protein, definitely not. Okay. We just know there's a little bit of aluminum foil transfer to anything with acid or protein. There might be here, but we have such a high temp, 425. So we have the high temp because we want to go through the caramelization too, because there's not really much happening in the broccoli on up to the aromatic. So that is why if you, like for me, I can't stand Brussels sprouts unless they're roasted. So yeah, and I have, but that's because they're aromatic compounds in them. So my daughter, even she loves Brussels sprouts. She knows how to do them. Like tonight, they'll probably do them. Just a bag of Brussels sprouts, have them or quarter them if they're huge. I already tossed those that were in there in a little oil. Sorry, and it's like half a tablespoon to a tablespoon for like 7 cups. And then a lot of times, actually, what I do for roasting is I will just put a little in my hands, go like this, and then grab the onions or grab the broccoli or the Brussels sprouts and just kind of massage it in my fingers. Because you just need a little. You don't need to coat it. It's just a little. And then put it in the air fryer for 10 minutes at 400 is what our system is. And they're like, it's really good Brussels sprouts. So, but my 8th grader, she knows now, she's a 9th grader. She knows how to make Brussels sprouts because she loves them and she loves broccoli too. And broccoli, when I make the roasted broccoli, it usually doesn't make it off the pan because and I've actually made that as an appetizer too. Just timed it and set it out, and everybody, while we're talking and waiting for other people to arrive, we just have that there and we're snacking on it. So, there's just all kinds of uses. I do have a steamer here. I wanted to show you, but I don't have any broccoli left. But a lot of times I'll do the florets in here, do a prettier little kind of, your typical florets in here, 1:33, and they're done. No water added. They're steamed perfectly. It's really nice, these steamers. And if I'm in a hurry, what I'll do for dinner is I'll just set this, don't take the lid off, put the parquet next to it and say, hey, this is the vegetable, this is whatever, So it's a real easy way of getting a vegetable added, just steamed broccoli. The parquet, the spray it is margarine. I'm not a big fan of margarine, but it's just a little spray. So if you like that, that's fine. So, the point is that vegetables, if you say, I don't like that vegetable, I'm like, hold off a second. Okay. Have you roasted it? Have you steamed it? Have you blanched it? Have you, had it raw? There's all kinds of ways to have vegetables. Open mind. So, because you might be missing out. So, okay. Quinoa. I want to make quinoa. So we're going to do a quinoa berry salad. So quinoa is this little seed. It's actually technically a seed. So I think you can see that there. Oh my goodness, and they're a nightmare to clean up. Oh my goodness. So, whoops. Okay, let's get this started here. You want to rinse your quinoa, even if it says rinsed already. I don't even read for it. I always rinse with a strainer. Quinoa naturally can have this outer powdery layer called saponin. It's not dangerous. It's just, it can give a soapy kind of taste. So and it's just a good idea, a lot of your grains, to rinse them because they settle with, coatings and stuff. So rinse the quinoa. And it's just a ratio of 1 to 2, and then it makes 3. So I've got 2/3 cup. Where is my pan? My pan, here it is. My pan, I've got 2/3 cup water here. So I'm going to cook that over here, and I'm going to boil that, and it's just 10 minutes. And the cool thing about quinoa is it is really high in fiber and protein. It's really I wouldn't call it a complete food, but actually the ancient Aztec culture used to feed quinoa to its warriors because it found that their warriors were stronger when they ate quinoa. So they saved it for them. And quinoa actually grows in some really hard to grow areas of South America. So they would save it. I'm sure they didn't have a lot of, food to choose from. So it just is full of really good for you. So, and it's so easy. It takes 10 minutes. It's a whole grain. It doesn't clump together like sometimes rice will. So you can do it for the whole week, one batch. You can freeze it in individual batches and it comes out of the freezer fine. You can add it to other things too. It's really great to just add, and we're going to have it in our salad. A lot of times I'll just be like, oh, I have some leftover quinoa. I'll add it to this salad. I'll toss it into the wrap. You hardly know it's there. It's a tiny little seed. So just start thinking about it. Quinoa is so easy. My kids are not crazy about brown rice, okay? My ex is Filipino, so the culture that my in-laws all came from is very Asian, and brown rice even is not real well accepted in that culture. So they do a lot of times when we do rice, they're like, Mom, are you gonna do the brown rice? I'm like, okay, I'll do the white rice because I have a rice cooker because that's how much rice we do. And then I'll do quinoa. I mean, sometimes I'll do brown rice, but I'll do quinoa because it's so quick to do on the stove. It's actually quicker than the rice. Rice cookers are really nice because they hold the rice for, you just throw it in, and you could throw it in 2 hours before and it's ready, so you don't have to worry about because it holds the temp perfectly. So, but quinoa is like my go-to. I just have it all the time. So I have it rinsed here. So I'm just going to add that in there. And just 10 minutes, it's going to be done. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. They'll fluff up. You can use it instead of rice and anything. So, okay. So the other things that we're going to have in here are the chopped spinach. Notice that's a more delicate lettuce. So when I get home, I always have spinach. And if I had arugula, it's the same thing. It's a delicate leaf. Put a paper towel in, open it, put a paper towel, even if you don't use it for 2 days, because the paper towel, it's the moisture. If somehow the way it's been transported or somewhere it's gotten some moisture, that's what's going to make it go bad. Even the date says it's supposed to say. Okay, so we put just a paper towel on there to keep it. So we've got strawberries, blueberries. You could use frozen blueberries. I've used that before. Walnuts, these are nice in there, and we're going to use some Parmesan. And you're like, Teresa, what? Okay, I'm going to use the block because it's a little less sodium than if I got it grated. It's a lot less than the powder kind of grated. But it's a really nice complement in here. I had a demo over the weekend. I did arugula salad with a lemon olive oil dressing, and I shaved some arugula, shaved some Parmesan. It's just, you don't need a lot, but it's an elegant touch. And if you get the block, all you need to do is take the peeler like this, and you shave it, and then you just put those on top of your salad. Or you can chop it up. And what I've done for tonight, I just did that earlier and chopped some up for us. So it's just really nice. So yes, it has saturated fat, so don't go crazy, okay? But I want you to understand and be okay with doing these things because you're being intentional with the things that might contribute, some of the saturated fat. But if it adds a little pizzazz or flavor or elegance, hey, a little bit add on there. You don't have to. It is really good without, but I do think the Parmesan adds an edge to it that's nice. So I just want you to know it's okay to do some of this. We have the nuts, we have the berries, we have the spinach, it's dark green. So we got a lot going on here. So a little bit of Parmesan here and there is going to be fine. Okay, so the other thing that we're doing is we are going to make some balsamic. So we're going to make reduced balsamic, okay? So here's reduced balsamic. This is a grape that is grown in Italy in a certain portion. It's all controlled. It's all, very, very prestigious. And what they do is they take it and then they boil it and reduce it to half. And they call that grape must, M-U-S-T. And then they add wine vinegar with it, and that's what we have in the bottle here. Now, if you look at the ingredient list, it says wine vinegar and then concentrated grape must. So the second ingredient is grape must because the ingredients are listed by weight. So wine vinegar is the top one. So now, if you had a little more expensive balsamic, look at the label. I'll bet you that the grape must is the first ingredient. Okay. Now the really expensive reduced balsamic that somebody brings back from Italy, maybe $30 to $200. That what they've done there is they've taken the grape must, put it in an oak barrel, let it age for a year, reduced by 10%. Then they add a little bit of even older reduced balsamic into that, let it sit for another year. It reduces 10%. They add another older one. They keep doing this for like a young one is 12 years. An old one is 150 to 200 years. I don't know what the price of that would be. So, but what they do is it's naturally evaporating off the vinegar portion and it's creating these like complex compounds. It's like having a zing of sweet with this like mouth complexity you've never experienced before. It just explodes in your mouth with all these flavors, like a really good wine in a way. So, but you would never heat that because once you heat it, you destroy all those complexities. So what we're doing tonight is we're going to make a cheap version of a reduced balsamic. We're going to evaporate off the wine vinegar essentially and get down to the grape must. And it's going to be sweeter and complex. Not quite like the expensive ones from Italy, but it's going to work. And I took one of these earlier today and reduced it down to this. Okay, so you see how far? It's about a fifth that we reduce it down to. Now, typically, there's a double this size at Walmart. I will do that and reduce it. It takes about 40 minutes. I'm going to show you how to do this. But I have a squeeze bottle. And I have it in a squeeze bottle, and I have it next to my stove. If you have it in a squeeze bottle, you don't have to refrigerate it unless you start sticking the nozzle in all your food, which I am assuming you're not going to do. So, because it's vinegar, so it doesn't need to be. I've looked this up. People are like, how long does it keep? I'm like, it's vinegar. It's reduced, yes, but it's still vinegar. That's the only ingredient is wine vinegar and grape must, which comes from, so it's fine. So we're just I'm just going to take a little bit of this and show you how to make the balsamic. So the reduced balsamic. So it's a really good thing to know. Oh, that was not good. Okay, we're almost done anyways there. Here we go. Oops, this one. Okay, so we're going to boil this high. Now, when you have a stock pot, you want your heaviest duty stock pot. And when you boil it, you don't want your face over it. You want to warn everybody in the household. My cat wouldn't even go to get her food this morning because the kitchen stunk. So, put the fan on, put the doors, the windows. It evaporates quickly. It's gone quickly. So it's not like hanging around. But it's, this is balsamic vinegar, so it's up there on vinegars. Now, one way of kind of keeping track, especially in the beginning of what's going on, I use the popsicle trick because the biggest kind of hazard, let's just call it, with making reduced balsamic is you overboil it. In other words, you burn it. So you reduce it too far, it gets a little burnt. So you help prevent that by having a heavy stock pan so you don't burn it. And the other thing is you use a popsicle stick to see how dark it is. Because even though this looks dark in the bottle, it's not as dark. They add some coloring with the bottle. So if I stick this into the finished here to show you, look how different that is. Okay. So it started out as this and it went to this. Okay. So now you are going to stop it. You can see our rolling boiling, and I'm going to start separating because this is your trick, is to kind of see how thick it is, because we want to get it to Hershey syrup. It's water now, and we want to get it to Hershey syrup. When it finishes, it's going to be a little thicker than Hershey syrup because it always thickens a little more. And that's gotten me a few times because I'll like cool it and I'll go off and do something. I'll come back and I'll I'll be like, oh my goodness, I could stand a spoon up in this because it's so thick. So, you want to just, you find that just so, and you don't want to burn it. So basically, I usually, when I get it down closer, when I evaporate about half, I slow the boil down a little bit and start to watch it more closely. You don't have to watch it while it's boil here. But when we get down, we've only got a half cup. So this will go pretty quick. This is more like 4 cups there. So, okay, so we're going to make that and put that on top. So I actually have some quinoa salad here. I'm going to make it in a bowl. The quinoa I made earlier and put it in the refrigerator. So, because this is a cold salad, ideally, I mean, you could do it with, just made quinoa if you wanted to. So I'm gonna fluff that up a little bit there. And I'm gonna add my spinach. I'm gonna add my strawberries. I'm gonna add my blueberries. Look at that, and that's beautiful. I'm gonna finish off, I'm gonna add I'm gonna top it off a little bit with there, so I'm gonna save a little bit. Sprinkle that on. Up a little bit there. Stir this. Okay, we're getting close there. Okay, we're almost to Hershey syrup. You see that? So I call this parting the Red Sea, Moses. So you can see it's holding a little bit more there. So we're about there. I know, I'm going to go over. So I'm just going to watch it because this is really quick. This is a hot heat. I'm at 8. And I don't want it to burn, so I'm keeping it off the bottom there. Almost there. There we go. Okay, we're done. So we can turn this all off. So you can see there, and it's going to thicken even more as it thickens up there. So then mix this up. Look at all this pretty colors. This is a complete meal, guys. So we're going to sprinkle the walnuts on top. Typically, I will not mix in the balsamic. If I'm serving this, I'll put it in the bowl, and I might do something like, again, I have a squeeze bottle at home, so it makes it a little easier to do this, but I'll show you. You can just go. Look how pretty that is. This is where you can draw on a plate. That's how chefs draw on the edge of the plate. So you guys can add, but I do that. And then I a lot of times just set the squeeze bottle on the table so people can add how much they want. So, this is thickening up. It's going to thicken up even some more as it cools there. So, but we've got that. So also, guys, don't be afraid. You could do things like cherry tomatoes in here, a little avocado. Those are, if you don't have the blueberries, that's fine. Just go strawberries. And, there's a lot of different ways. We could add a little basil in here if we wanted to. So this is it has the punch from the balsamic and sweetness, but we've got the nuts a little bit with the sweetness. It's not a super strong, robust like our kale salad last week was. So we don't want to add Dijon or things like that or garlic to this. So that's just really going to be out of balance. Okay, so let's do the scallion. So we're finishing up here, zoodles. So now a couple of you said you had zoodles before. So what have been your challenges with the zoodles? Anybody have any challenges there? Okay. One often is getting soggy noodles. So I highly don't recommend this frozen. I have only had one out of about 6 times it turned out. Okay, so I think it's probably just because there's maybe some freezer burn. When you go temperature changes, you're going to break down the cell. So I just think it's too tough because you still have to follow a couple kind of tips to make sure this doesn't get too soggy. So, so I'm going to teach you that. So one of the things, here's zucchini. So I'm going to show you with the zoodle. This is just a real simple zoodle. It's not the complicated one with 10 parts that you have to set up and grind and all that. This is like a $10 one off Amazon. I usually just zoodle zucchini. I don't do other things. So if you want to do other things, you may need a more robust one. Typically, when we do zoodles, we want to look at the thicker rather than the thinner. It kind of has an indication here, thick, thin, because the thick is going to have more of the skin. So it's just going to hold up a little bit better. So I already did a little bit of this, but you just, trim off the end and just stick it in here. That's all you need to do. And just wind it, wind it, wind it. I actually, when I get down there, chop that off. Okay. Oh, it's in there. Okay, I thought it was the quinoa. Wait. Gotta think. Okay. Is that not perfect? Do you see all of them got brown on them? Dark brown? Because they're the same height and I gave them a little room. So that's how you do it. So, now you can do it in the air fryer, but an air fryer is probably not going to get the perfection there that the oven, because you kind of throw it in there. And I find my air fryer kind of has hot spots and not hot spots in it. So it's not that you can't do it in the air fryer. I will do broccoli in the air fryer, but I just know that everyone is not going to be like that. But I want you to understand, and each vegetable you need to do similar to, you can do small squares, and just a couple of them will be browned nicely, of like sweet potatoes or something like that. It's okay. Maybe they all won't have that brown spot on them. I just want you to understand the spectrum and how, if you would want everyone to be perfect, you can do it. So, okay. So we are just spiralizing this, and then there's this piece here that you can use when you get close, because we don't want our fingers to get caught in there. So we just keep going, 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 going. And usually at the end, there's a few pieces you just kind of discard. So a lot of times I will cut this up, because sometimes you get, especially if you had a longer zoodle or zucchini. So I'll just chop this up because it's easier to work with in the pan when they're not these super long strings. Now you can't usually use a homegrown zucchini because they are very unique in shape. This has to be zucchinis that are, longer, a little thinner, that fit in this. So just, when you're picking them out at the grocery store, make sure you pick that out. Now, one of the ways to cut down on the sogginess, I put paper towels down here. I sprinkled a little bit of salt because I want to draw out the water. Okay, it's not that there's really salt going to be part of what I'm eating, but the salt is going to draw it out. So, and then I patted it. So, and you just kind of pat it, and I let it sit for 30 minutes is what really is kind of the optimal. If it's longer, it's perfectly fine. But that's really kind of the ideal for getting this. We just want to get kind of that surface water out so it doesn't get it soggy. So we're going to go ahead and start cooking that real quickly. So I'm going to put my olive oil here. I have a little bit here. I'm going to actually, the way we want to do this is heat the pan up. But don't heat it like my 19-year-old son. He heats the pan up and then he goes to the bathroom. I'm like, what? The pan's been there for 5 minutes. So I'm still training him. So we want to get it hot. So we want to feel, just technically you want to kind of feel the heat, because if you put the oil there, it's not the end of the world, but we want the pan to be hot to get the oil hot. So there we go. I can feel it. So I'm going to put that there and just swirl it around a little bit. And we are going to add our garlic in there. So I just use jar garlic to keep things easy, simple. I go between both now. I've actually started giving myself permission to use the jar garlic. It is nice to have. So just about 20 seconds. And then I'm going to add the tomatoes. So I just use my slicer there. Come on, there we go. And we're just going to let them kind of cook and get a little bit of the water out there. That's going to go pretty quick. Then we're going to add the zucchini. The basil, I want to get that ready. So the basil here, basil is a high maintenance herb, okay? Sorry, you are.
So the easiest way is to stack it, the leaves inside, kind of like you're stacking the dolls, the Russian dolls. So we're going to put those in. Okay, this is a little high. Let's put that in 7. There we go. Go ahead and add that. We're just going to quickly add this. Everything's going to go quick. So I stack these like the Russian dolls. Then I'm going to roll it tightly, like I'd roll a cigar. Now, I actually have never rolled a cigar before, so I'm just pretending. So, and then I'm making the ribbons, the chiffonade here. So now we've got ribbons there that we're going to add. So I've got my scallions here. So we're probably about ready to add them. It's really quick, guys. There we go. I'm going to add the scallions, basil, and a little bit of seasoning. I've just got the table blend. I like that. I don't like the lemon pepper. It's a little too strong, the lemon pepper, I believe. I'm not adding any red, the cayenne pepper because I think that's a little strong. You can do that if you like that. And I'm just going to flip it and then pull it. So that's about it. You don't want to go longer than that. Otherwise, you're going to have soggy noodles. So see how quick that was. So, oh, scallions. Okay, scallions. You want to store them in a paper towel, paper towel fell out. In a bag. Sometimes I'll just use the bag it came in. And sometimes I'll use my baggies that I recycle all the time, but just on the ends, on the roots there, that's where you want the bag. Put it in there. When we cut this, you cut off the root there, and I usually cut 1 to 2 inches off the other end. And I usually start with the green end because the green stuff is chlorophyll. That's great stuff. That's super great for filtering out toxins and pollution. It tastes the same as the white, but some of us get used to just using the white end. Now, I actually have a Parmesan shaker in my freezer of scallions. And so already cut up. So it takes about 2 bunches on average that you wash and cut up, put in the Parmesan, the emptied out Parmesan shaker, and put it, make sure they're dry before you put them in. I usually just use a dish towel, dry them, then put it in the freezer. Now you have scallions ready to go anytime. And so the trick though is when you want to put them on your salad or your sandwich or your whatever, take out the scallions in the Parmesan shaker and just use it really quickly and then put it back in. Because if you set it out on the counter while you're cooking, they're going to thaw, and then you put them back, and now you've got a whole bunch. But so long they're dry, when you put them in there and you just keep them frozen, they will actually not be one big ice chunk. They will be actual individual that you can just shake and have anytime scallions. So, and they thaw so quickly, you don't even need to worry about that. By the time the food's on the table, they're fine. So, so there's no need for scallions not having on hand. So I do that. I do also grow a few in the mason jar, but I don't have the best luck with anything growing. So there's a few techniques to that I've learned along the way. Plus, they never grow fast enough for my need for scallions. So I have the Parmesan shaker. Plus, I have some nice looking in a mason jar next to my sink. Okay, last thing I want to do is, I know we're out of time, but this will take no time. Let me get the edamame in there. So I am putting in shelled edamame, okay, in the bag. It does say it can go in the bag. Always read the instructions, but there's no salt in this. So anybody know what edamame is?
Soybeans.
Yes, it's immature soybeans. So they're a great protein. They don't really have much taste, kind of like tofu. So, but they're a light green, so they look pretty on stuff. So, and then we have edamame in the pod. So this is a great snack. And actually, I had a little bag that I was grabbing from home to bring here, but every time this happens, my daughter goes, "Oh, I see you have edamame? Because I have it in the outside freezer and she forgets about that. It's always out there. And I bring it inside and she's like, oh, can I have the edamame? I'm like, I was gonna bring that to class. So I went out and got some, but I'm just saying, this is like a bulk bag. If you're having a guest, a group, this is what you can do. But they have individual at Costco and at Sam's. They have individual microwavable snack size edamame in the. So you guys here are going to taste this. But edamame with the pod is a great snack. You pull it through your teeth and you just end up eating the edamame. But it just slows you down. It's kind of fun to do. You actually can give like a teaspoon of rice vinegar in your little bowl, and that will bring out the sweetness and the saltiness of it. So you don't sprinkle too much salt. You can sprinkle a little bit if you want to. I was first introduced to edamame in Hawaii. I haven't been recently, but I've probably been about 8 times early on in my marriage. My in-laws were actually stationed there. They're Seventh-day Adventist missionary. So we would go over there and spend time with them. But there's a place called Roy's that's like this really, it's got a real chef, but it's the kind of place you can go with your like casual clothes or your fancy clothes too. And when you're waiting for your food, they serve you edamame in the shell with their special seasoning. So I have very elegant memories of edamame. So you might be going, oh, I don't know about that. But for me, that's like top-notch food. So they do now put on the internet their spice combination, because when I went there, it was like this big secret, like, oh, what's Roy do for their seasoning for on their edamame? So, but I'm just saying, it's your mindset determines so much. And for me and my kids, edamame has great memories. So just give it a chance. So, and look at here, look at this. There's, look at that. It's thick. I'm telling you guys, there's something magical about once it cools that you're just like, wow, it did cool. So, okay. So where's my cutting board? I put it over here, but I do need it for my cilantro. I want to show you real quick. Okay, so in this combination, super easy, I promise you. We're just going to throw it together. So we start out with broccoli slaw. You can get that in any store, anywhere. It's a great just veggie with all great components, but we need seasoning with it. So we've got a dressing here. There's another one suggested in your recipe there. And it's a light vinaigrette with a kick to it. So we're going to add that in there. I'm going to stir in a cup of edamame. Real quick here. We just, is it half a cup or a cup?
Cup.
1 cup. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we got our cups there. We got our sauce. And then we're going to add some no salted peanuts. So these are dry roasted unsalted peanuts. Hy-Vee and Walmart have them. And then you can top it with anything that you have. Now you've got the seasoning there. So we've got some cilantro that we can top it with there. We've got holy avocado that we can grab and add, because I've got that, or usually an avocado. So we can put that on top. But this is a really great, super fast meal. You saw how easy that was to put together. And a lot of times I'll even just have, like, if the evening, like I've got a conference and I'm like, oh, they're probably, they have 2 choices. It's not going to be half vegetables and fruits. So I might have a little bowl of just the slaw with some of the dressing on it, just to kind of start to fill me up so I'm not starving and that I know I'm getting some veggies. So it's just a great thing to have around. So super simple, super easy. So, again, these are things that you could easily have around. So you can substitute other things for the broccoli slaw too. So don't be afraid to do that. So I'm going to throw in the edamame for us to try here. But we've got our zoodles, we've got our broccoli, we've got our quinoa berry salad here, and the peanut bowl. So lots of great dishes, new flavors. Think about, what your action step, make sure you don't leave before you check off something there. And this is all about baby steps, moving you towards. Think about that refrigerator. That's a really, really key one. And kind of how you're set up. Have fun with this, guys. I treated myself in the last couple of months. I bought some new measuring spoons. They were not expensive, but it was a treat because I got 2 sets, and they're the rectangle ones that are silver, so they can fit in the spices, because they're not round. And I just love them. It just makes it more fun cooking now, even that more fun, just, having those little things. So think about what you really want. Oh, speaking of fun, here is this is my plate, my pretty plate. So this is a plate that everybody has to ask permission to use. And I grab this when I really want to sit down and eat mindfully and don't want interruption. People know, don't be interrupting me. So, have your things that are special to you. So, this is meant to be something pleasurable, enjoyable, and, you're nourishing, healing your body. So those are great stuff. Thank you. Let me see if you guys got questions. Sorry about that, guys. I see there's a chat. Thank you for the great recipes and tips. I have to go to another meeting. Okay, Tamara, totally understand. She jumped off. So awesome, guys. Let me know there, Janice. And Juanita, if you have questions. So just shout them out, take yourself off mute, or send me in the chat because I'll watch for them on the transcript.
Hi there, this is
Okay.
Janice.
Yeah,
You didn't address it tonight, but I was just wondering for myself, is there a granola that's ready-made in the stores that you can recommend?
Okay, that brings up a good point. Granola is a hard thing. So I'll have to go back. I do have one at home and look at the label first before I recommend. What I really recommend is that you use label reading skills, and we actually didn't get to label reading. So let me go over it really quickly while we're keeping that up. I'm sorry about that.
It's just something. No problem. We can save that for next week. No problem.
I know, but I want you to start using label reading skills. So
Will do.
if you guys want to grab something from here, grab something, pass it. So there's 5 things. I knew there was something I needed to do. There's 5 things to look for when we're looking at a label that I recommend. I want to keep it easy. So the first thing is ignore the front, because the front is a standstill advertisement, and thousands of dollars have been spent on figuring out what's going to entice people to put it in their cart, and they're pretty good at it. And sometimes I've even taken home products that I'm like, shoot, why did I grab that? So go to the back, look at the nutrition facts and the ingredients list. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the serving size. Not because I'm going to get obsessed with it and give good or bad things, but I just want to know comparison wise, is that what I'm going to eat? Or am I going to eat a little more? You don't have to get down to the nitty gritty, but just get a feel. Am I going to think I'm going to eat this much or more or less? So get a feel for that. And then if you compare to another item on the shelf, you want to know that you're comparing apples to apples in a sense. Sometimes they are different. Sometimes they're much better than they used to be. So that's the first thing. The second thing is saturated fat. And so saturated fat in general, we say no more than 10 grams of saturated fat for the whole day. That's beverages and snacks and meals. Now, I know one of you took the assessment, and one of the areas we're working on is saturated fat. And I recommended that you keep it closer to 9, because the percentage, if you're getting a customized recommendation for saturated fat, it's really the recommendations for general health are no more than 10% of your calories from saturated fat, but really the American College of Cardiology recommends 6%. So whoever I gave that recommendation to for 9, it was because I was looking at 6%. I think you were at 8%, this person. So, if we're going for optimal is 6%. Okay. And if you want to know exactly what you need to do for the whole day, let me know. And if you've done the nutrition assessment, it's easy enough for me to figure that out. So that's the second thing. The third thing is the sodium. So sodium, we want no more than 2,300 milligrams if you don't have high blood pressure or aren't on high blood pressure meds. If you have high blood pressure or on meds for it, then 1,500 for the whole day, all your drinks and snacks and everything. Okay. So it's a weird number, but it's one you really want to start becoming familiar with. You don't have to add it up on your calculator, but try and keep track a little bit. The next thing is, I usually jump to the ingredients list, but some people like to look at the sugar. So if you were to look at the sugar, look at the added, not the total. Thank goodness they've actually finally divided this out. But the added, you want no more than 10 grams. And that's like still like, ooh, that's 2.5 teaspoons of sugar if you're at 10 grams of added sugar. So, you know, and we're finding more and more about sugar. It's not that you can't have any, but our bodies really weren't made for sugar except for just before winter. Because why did we want sugar? It was because things were ripe, they were picked, and then you were fattening up for the winter months. Because when our bodies get excess sugar, it's a signal to our evolutionarily developed bodies that we should put on fat. And that's what we've seen, especially with the fructose in particular. So it's just, and I don't want you to think no sugar ever, but really most of us really need to get it down. So I do add it on my oatmeal, but you know, I'm not adding it throughout the day, and I'm using whole foods and using things like strawberries and using the balsamic, reduced balsamic. Guys, if you put that on strawberries, you're going to be like, this is so good. It's like dessert. So it's so good on mushrooms and asparagus. And oh my goodness, it's great on bruschetta. So to drizzle some reduced balsamic. So just starting to think other flavors that you're bringing out. Then the last thing that you want to look at, which is really tough period anyways. Well, okay, sugar, you can go to the ingredient list and look. There's 61 names that could be sugar on your ingredient list. Now, remember that they're listed by weight. So if I see a word that I'm pretty sure is sugar, like agave, honey, evaporated, you know, cane sugar, all those are sugar. Any in the top 3 to 5 ingredients, just think that's a lot of sugar in that product because they're by weight. Okay, so again, 61 names. Anything with OSE in the end is sugar. Dextrose, maltose, glucose, fructose, galactose, all those things are sugar. So, so that's sugar. The last thing is looking at whole grain, which honestly is very close to impossible to do in a packaged product because they're going to strip it and then they'll add some fiber so they can up that number. Okay, but that's not the way the studies were done. That's not what we know from research. You can't cheat that way. So I'm just saying to find brown rice, oats, amaranth, farro in a product is a little unusual for most your packaged products. Most of the time we have to cook it as its own dish like we did tonight. So I'm just saying you can look for those words in the ingredient list. You can look at the fiber, but again, I usually ignore the fiber because there's so many, you know, Cheerios looks like it's high fiber because they've added back fiber. That's not really a whole grain, guys, with all 3 layers of the grain, the germ, the bran, the endosperm, the way Mother Nature made it. It isn't. And our bodies will not react to it the same way. So those are the 5 things. So tell me, does the product that you have, would you say thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up. Okay, you have an interesting one. We'll talk about that one next week. It's a really cool product, but you probably haven't ever seen it before. Yeah. Yeah, that's the same company, but it's a different. You got the chicken version-ish and you got the beef version-ish. So, and you got the hamburger, or is that the, yeah.
I got the veggie, she's got the meat.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that next when we talk about proteins. So plant-based proteins. So that was quick, guys, but I want you to start reading labels and those 5 things because, you know, saturated fat,
that's what triggers our, the small dense LDL and sugar and sugar and sugar.